So let's get started. All right. Hey, what's up? My name's Kooldrink. I'm back again. You guys seem to have liked the other video I did about Amapiano and all sorts of things. I'm back again to do more. Today, we're going to be looking at all the little tips and tricks that I didn't share in the last video. All the little things, all the little nuances I'm going to clear up today. I did look at your questions on the YouTube video, and I have gone and looked at all of your questions, and I have created an answer. And we're going to go through the answers to a lot of those questions in this video. So let's get started. So the first thing that I want to tackle is a lot of the questions were asking me, where do we get the presets for a lot of the Amapiano you're making, right? So remember from the last video, if we go into FL Studio, we go and find the Fruity DX10, that man over there. We open that man up, hit the presets button, and we go down to L, log drum. There he is. First preset you need, log drum preset. Put that in the mixer track. As you can see, we've got a mixer track right here. As you remember, for the guys that watched, for this log drum, the first thing you want to do before you EQ, before you compress, before you do anything, sounds a little weak. Let's push it through a saturator. So let's grab Fruity Wave Saper, or the other one I like to use is Decap's Knock, but we'll get to that. Pull out a Fruity Wave Shaper and just go. It sounds like it's a lot. That's where you stop. When it sounds like it's doing a little too much, saturating a little too much, your transient is hitting a little too hard, that's when you're doing the right thing. So that's the first thing I want to tackle. So that is our log drum. Now, a lot of you have been asking, how do we make private school Amapiano? Now, private school Amapiano is that super laid back, think Calvin Momo, think MFR Souls. A lot of you are asking, what presets are those? Because the log drum seems to hit hard, but it's not at the same time. So let's show you how to do that, right? So I've got this project here that we're going to go through. This is where we'll be working. This is our little classroom for the day, right? So this song, I think I'll play it through and I'll skip to all the little important parts and I'll start to break it down and I'll show you all the different log drums I used and then I'll get to the private school piano bass. So that's our classroom for the day. Everything I'm breaking down is going to come from this FLP. And let's start with this Calvin Momo laid back private school piano bass line. A lot of you will recognize this, right? So if I zoom into this melody over here. If I put an octave up, you can hear it better. Recognize that sound. Now, how do we get to that sound? Very simple. In FL Studio, a lot of these sounds are in FL Studio. We'll have to figure out a way to get it to you. Now, you insert a channel and you look for Harmless, not Harmer, Harmless. Open up Harmless, go to the presets folder, and this one is called Bit Wobbly AG. That is a funny name for a preset, but that's what it's called. Now, with this specific preset, to get the sound that I did, you want to put that in the mixer track. So let's go to mixer track 32. That's where it is. Mixer track 32. Now, with this sound has a lot of low-end energy, but at the same time, that low end's really wide. Now, rule one in making music is we always mono our basses. So that's what I've done here. So I've used FabFilter Pro Q3. And what you do here, let's open up a new one. Let's disable this one. Open up a new FabFilter Pro Q. Right? There it is. So what we do is we put a little dot over there. And you go down to shape, or slope, actually. No, it's actually not slope. It's stereo placement. And then you click mid. Right? So we want to remove the bass in the mids. Right? So what we're going to do is then change this to slope and choose a high cut. And we're going to put the high cut around there. Grab another Q3, right? Another Q3. Put another one of these little dots here. click shape, click low cut, and let's change that to now be the sides. Now why I'm removing bass information from the sides is because you don't want stereo information below 150 hertz. That's useless to me, you, and the club. So we don't want that. So we grab this, we put it into sides mode, and then you put on a low cut, and you move it all the way up to like 180, 160. And let's see what it sounds like. There we go. If I go all the way, now the entire sound is mono. We want it to be mono just below 100, 120 hertz, right? So that's the first preset. That's how you get that private school piano sound, right? Let's move on to the other important thing in the room, the log drum. How have I processed this? How have I... See, in this tutorial, I'm not trying to teach you to just copy my settings. And I will show you the settings, and you should screenshot them when you see them. But I want to teach you the school of thought into how we get to this point with the log drum. So let's listen to this log drum alone. Let's solo the log drum. It sounds a little odd by itself. So let's just solo the actual log drum. So as you remember, Fruity DX10, presets, log drum. We grab that. Second thing you want to do is shape your log drum, right? So if we play that log drum, this first knob here that says initialize, right? We want to move that up and down. That controls the attack, the transient, the little in the log drum. That's that. So let's play with that together. Right. What is the sweet spot with that? If the attack sounds like it's doing a little too much, so you should start from 0, as I am. While you're playing it, bring up this knob, and when the transient starts to sound like it's doing too much, leave it right there. Don't back away, leave it right there. So let's do that together. That's where we're supposed to be. The reason why I say keep your transient high is because you still need that log drum to cut through the mix. Yes, it's a bass sound, but I want to hear when that bass sound starts and ends. So that transient tells your brain the sound starts here, ends there. That's why we want to emphasize that transient. The next thing we want to do is use this little sustain knob, sus knob. So that sustain knob gives the log drum tonality. Watch when I put on 0. The log drum sounds more like a little click, like a thump, you know? When I bring this up, I start to get that tonality. So let's find a point where it sounds good to us. So let's play the melody. This feels good to me, right? The next is the time knob. The time knob is a little abstract knob. I like to call it the little abstract knob here. I'm not sure what it does too much of the time, but sometimes when I turn it, it makes happy accidents. So we're gonna do that together here. It seems to add like a little thunk to it. It's not just like it's not a tick, it's a thump now. And I want a little bit of that, just a little bit of that. We're in a good place there. That's my log drum. So before I even send the log drum off to go get distorted or anything, this is what I'm doing, shaping the sound. It should sound like what I want before I throw it through a clipper, a compressor, anything. So here's our log drum done and ready. The very next thing we want to do is give our log drum some meat. Now, how do we give it meat? As we're hearing, the log drum has some low-end information, but that's not enough to carry through the song. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to play the chorus of the song without the sub bass. The sub bass, as you can see, is muted over here. So let's go play it without it. There you go. See? Muted. Let's play that chorus without it. Sounds good, right? You would think. Now let's bring it back. So that log drum just adds that low end layer. That's just, you can't touch it, you can't play, it's just there holding it down. The low end is like the bouncer at your club. That guy's gotta be there the whole time to make sure anything on the inside or the outside is going well. You need that sub bass. So let's figure out how to do that. So the first thing I would do is I would clone my log drum and then go to File, Presets. Important. Listen up here. Which preset do I use for the log drum? The one called FM bass. Just hit F on your keyboard. It's down right there. FM bass. There we are. First thing I need you to do when you use that log drum is I want you to copy the pattern from your log drum and put it in the bass. Turn your bass volume to 0. And while you're playing your melody, I want you to incrementally bring your volume up. And I want you to stop when you can feel the sub. I don't want you to hear the sub. I want you to just feel the sub. So let's do that. See, that's too much. See, when I make it unity gain, that's way too much. See, nothing's breathing. Everyone's fighting for that space. Let's start at 0 and bring it back. We're doing really well over here. If I mute that sub and play it again, you'll notice a difference. If I put it back, you know it's there. So bring it up to a volume where if you remove it, you notice the difference, but you can't pinpoint what the difference is. And when you put it back, you know it's back. That is the right amount of volume. Remember, use your ears. If you are going to be tripped out by looking at that knob, close your eyes while you do it. Use your ears. Forget what's going on in there. Use your ears. So that's our log drum, right? Now, the very next sound you hear in the song, if I mute the drums, I want you to tell me what you hear. I want you to think to yourself what you hear. Let's mute these drums all together, right? And you listen to the song without the drums. Tell me what the next sound you hear is. Bum, 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 bum. Now, Amapiano land, we call those timekeepers. So, the bass line of Amapiano songs is, usually hard to follow. It's not a common rhythm. So we need something to tell you when to bob your head, and we call that a timekeeper. So here's my favorite way of timekeeping. So this sound I use in every single one of my songs. If you know a Kooldrink song, you know this sound. And this sound sounds like this. All right, let me take that filter off. Right. Now that sound is a serum preset that I have. This sound is also very available in the Splice pack. If you go to the Splice pack through the loops, this sound is available. It's also available as a one-shot in the synth one-shots. You can't fail. I've set you up for success here. But if you need the serum preset, here it is. So here's my serum. You take a screenshot at this point. Here's the effects tab. There's the matrix. There's the global tab. Take a screenshot, go replicate it, share it with your friends. Otherwise, get the Splice pack. So this sound is really just a little sine wave with a square wave doing some FM synthesis. And then in the mixer track for that sound, I'm just cutting the lows, cutting the highs, because it's a little harsh without it. Like if I remove that, it gets a little harsh. You don't want that. Cut those lows. Right, and then the next thing I have is a filter, just so I can automate in the song. And then some reverbs. You set it up how you want. Reverbs, I can never teach you how to do a reverb. You just have to feel that out by yourself. So put a reverb on that, what sounds right with your song. Hear the difference? If I remove it, I remove the sound, you don't know where to bob your head. Like, that's cool. But if I put it back, you know what to do. You just know what to do. So that's called a timekeeper, right? Now, there's another Amapiano preset outside of the timekeeper, and this is more traditionally Amapiano. And this does the same job as a timekeeper. It tells you when to move. And in the context of the song, it sounds like... You all know the sound. Where do you find the sound? I will be honest, for my first 2 years making Amapiano, I had to use a sample because I didn't know where it was. And I have found out where it was, and when I found out, I made it my mission to make sure that every person who struggles with this stuff, I'm going to tell you where to find it. I'm not going to gatekeep this stuff. So where do we find this sound? This sound is called the echo drop. It's used as a timekeeper. What do? Make a new channel. Insert Purity. You know Purity the synth? That really old one? That one. And what we are going to do is we're going to go into Purity. We go to GM normal, right? And echo drop should be somewhere here, up here, 102. Click that preset. There it is. Purity, preset number 102 in GM normal. Echo drops, used as a timekeeper. Remember this part. Now, with your log drums, in the second chorus of your song, as I'll play in here, now that is a 100% Kooldrink invention, and today I shall share it with you. As someone who makes Amapiano, I always wanted to understand how I can make Amapiano sound good for a Western market. How do you popify Amapiano? And one of the things that pop uses a lot of is harmony. People harmonize their vocals, people harmonize guitars, you harmonize synths, but no one ever harmonizes bass lines. And that's something I do. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. This is a very Kooldrink sound, and I'd like you to use it, share with all of your friends, tell each other how to do it. I'd love you guys to use this stuff. So let's take this pattern right here. Just the log drum alone is doing... Here's the log drum. And you got your sub bass. Now to create that little harmony, what I need you to do is clone your sub bass. Now remember that first knob. We're going to take that knob and bring it all the way down. You hear how there's no real attack, there's no transient on that. What you're going to do is give it a new channel, give it a new mixer track. First thing we're going to do is put an EQ on it. We're going to cut the highs and the lows. There you go, up until there, cut the highs. The next thing we'll do is I need you to saturate that sound, however you want to saturate, whether you're using knock, whatever saturator you're using, Fruity Wave Shaper, just saturate it and send it to the gods. The saturator I'm going to be using is Waves' one knob driver. Why do I like this? Well, it's one knob, and it does it. So let's push that sound. Push that sound, bring it down in volume. Now here's the important part, how to write your harmony melody. So let's copy the melody from our log drum. And let's drop it into the channel with our new harmony sound. Right? If I play them together, you can't hear that. If I put an octave up, you can sort of hear it. Put another octave up. Now you can hear it. Now how do we do harmony? Well, I could never explain that to you. I play the keyboard and the mouse. So we're going to fumble our way into finding it. The first thing I do, bring that melody up 3 semitones. One more semitone. See, that one's got to move. Let's bring him down. That's the money. Fumble your way to your harmony line. However you get there, you know theory, amazing. You don't know theory, we're gonna fumble till we get there, but get there. That's how you do the Kooldrink harmony. Another thing I like to do with the harmony is, if I'm feeling a little bit naughty, I can put a little reverb on that. So let's grab Fruity Reverb 1. 1. You heard me right, 1. And I know you're gonna be in the comments, but why don't you use 2? I like 1, okay? Fruity Reverb 1, turn everything down at the bottom. Let's shorten that reverb. We don't want a reverb tail. We just want it to sound wider. We're using the reverb not as a way to make a sound like it's in a big room. I want it to sound wide in a small room. So how do we do that? First thing you do, lower the decay as low as you can. And then you move your pre-delay up. Without that, very flat, in your face, in front of you. I want to just move that sound back a little bit. Do the delay, do the reverb trick. Now the sound's a little bit behind you. If your screen is in front of you, that sound needs to come like it's coming from behind your screen. That's what we're achieving with that trick, right? And together, cohesive, they're moving together. And that will help you get to this destination. And that, my friends, is how we do the log drum. That is the individual steps for the individual sounds in the log drum. But Kooldrink, all these sounds are playing together, but they're all individual. How do we make them move as a cohesive unit? How do we do that? So with all of these basses, you've got one log drum that's being affected one way. It's going through a saturator, a compressor. You've got the harmony that's doing its own thing. You've got the sub bass doing its own thing. All of them, when you put them together, are all talking and following the same melody, but dynamically, they're not following the same pattern. So the first thing we need to do, if you want to get that log drum sounding hard, punchy, and still cutting through the mix together, is I need you to put all of those three things, the harmony line, the log drum line, the sub bass line, let's put that all into one bus, and I will show you how to get them moving together. It involves compression, it involves EQ, it involves saturation. We're going to go through this, and you and I are going to figure this out together. So let's grab our log drum. Our log drum is over here. Channel 14. Channel 14, I'm going to take and move into, let's grab a new channel here. That is channel 72, and let's say bass bus, and let's make it red because bass is mean, right? And there's our bass bus. Let's go find our sub bass. Let's send that same sub bass to channel 72, the bass bus. As you can see, it's going through that. Let's go find our little harmony. Here's our little harmony. Let's put that into channel 72 as well. Now, all we're hearing is the bass, the log drum, and the harmonies going through that bass bus. First thing I would do with a sound like this is I would group saturate them. Now, this is where I call up one of my favorite plugins, Decap's Knock. That plugin just works. It is not a sponsored post, it just works. So I'm gonna pull out Knock. First thing I'm going to do is listen to what it sounds like without it doing anything. To my ears, that log drum needs a little more transient. So let's push this punch knob just up a little bit. That sounds about good. Let's do a tiny bit of saturation. A little bit. And let's give it a tiny bit of air. So what air does is, this is your EQ, this is your low end, and that's your high end. What air does is it just lifts that up ever so slightly. So if there's any frequency information here that you're not really hearing, it just lifts it up ever so slightly. So let's do a little bit of that. Lovely. So now we've got the tone of what we want. All of those three elements are going through that same tonal processing. Let's go and grab a compressor. Now, what does a compressor do? Compressor makes everyone talk at the same volume. Think of yourself in a room with 3 other people, you plus 3 people. That guy is speaking really loudly, he's speaking really softly, and he's screaming. You're trying to understand all of these conversations in one go. You're a computer. You can understand all these conversations in one go, but the volumes are just so vastly different. So what you want to do is tell him to shout a little lower, tell him to speak up, and that guy to stop screaming so they can all talk at the same volume. You have a better chance of understanding that conversation. That is compression in music. What I'm doing is taking all of these log drums, putting them into one group and being like, all of you, shh, same volume. So my favorite plugin for that is Spectral Sounds' Panks. I love this plugin because I like to see things. Compressors that have that little weird graph, I like to see what's going on in the waveform, and that's what this shows. So let's do that together. I'm going to show you what it sounds like when it's overcompressed. That's no good. And remember to set into soft clip mode. We never limit. No limiting. We like transients, we just need to find a way to deal with them properly. So, put into soft clip mode, and let's start from the top. If you're paying attention, you will notice that when I started this process, this log drum sound was peaking at -3. That was peaking at -3. Watch what happens when I bring this down slowly. What's going to happen is that peak is going to come down in volume, but audibly, the sound's not going to change, and that's what we want. Watch that. Let's back away a little bit. There we are. We've just freed up 3 decibels of headroom from -3 to -6 without an audible perception in sound. That's going to help me so much when I put a big fat master limiter at the end of my chain, because I've just brought down that sound. It's not taking as much space. It's not feeling as chaotic. They're all talking at the same volume. It's more, you can understand what's going on more because they're all talking at the same volume. That's what I've done with the sound. So now that we've got our bass bus going, let's hear it in context of the song. So I'm going to reduce the volume to 0, and I'm going to mix the bass bus in slowly. That, my friends, is your log drum masterclass. Come back to this video if you ever have to use a log drum. Come back. The tips are all here. I've shown them to you. And if you're too lazy to do any of that, that's okay too. Go to splice.com, get the pack. Pop, Amapiano. Go get the pack. I have log drums in there. I've done all of this already. You don't have to do this. If you want to do this, do it. If you don't want to, get the pack. That's one segment.